Hi, Hilary.
Hi, awesome.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Um, so let me introduce you. First, hello everyone watching this podcast. So welcome to the New Way of Being podcast. Um, in this space, we'll talk about life, love, spirituality, health, and well-being. NDE experiences, near-death experiences. And today I'm with Hilary Leehane. Hilary is a past life and between lives regression therapist. Through past life regression, she helps people understand why certain things happen to us, and she helps people break through those repetitive cycles. She's also had a near-death-like experience herself, and an out-of-body experience. And today we're going to explore or dive deeper into these experiences and explore how these experiences led her to a greater understanding of life, our purpose, both on a collective and an individual level, and how she now uses these experiences to help her clients live a life or live their lives more consciously and more intently or with intention. Um, so, Hilary, if you could perhaps first describe your near-death-like experiences to us or out-of-body experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. Awesome. So in my early 20s, I had a NDE-like experience. So the reason why I say an NDE-like experience is because it has a lot of the elements of a near-death experience, but I really don't think I died. So in that experience, it was very quick, and I was sleeping. It was early morning, and I was suddenly going through a tunnel with a light at the end at incredible speed. And the tunnel had these beautiful colors all around and dark but colorful, if that makes sense. And as I was going through the tunnel at this incredible speed, there was this beautiful angelic sound in the background, like angels singing. And the closer I got to the light, the louder it got. And then suddenly I woke up. Now I hadn't, this was my early 20s. I hadn't even heard of an NDE experience before that. And I wouldn't hear about NDE experiences until my early 30s. Um, and that's where it sort of unfolded for me. But in my early 30s, I had another NDE-like experience again, early morning, like, the sun is up, but you're still asleep. You're in that nice light sleep. And I was on a beach, laying on a beach, but my legs were sort of in the water, and I could feel the water kind of coming up over my body a little bit. And I felt myself rising like straight up from my body. And I was in this light. And this light, I mean, the feeling in that light is indescribable. It's like this overwhelming love, but not in the love sense of human earthly love, right? It's this everything's okay.
Mm,
It's like you're being held.
mm,
And I said to myself, "Oh my gosh, I'm dying. I think I'm dying in a sense." And I was like, "Okay."
yeah.
I'm good with this because I felt so good in that light. It was wonderful. And then I had the tiniest little thought, just
Mm,
the tiniest little thought of, well, I don't wanna leave my boyfriend yet. And with that thought, I slammed back into my body, it felt like. And that experience was over.
mm,
But for the morning, I could still feel that it was palpable still. It was a tangible feeling. But it subsided, unfortunately. I don't know though if I could handle that feeling constantly in my life. It would be wonderful, but I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, so I from that moment, I sort of started to get into this researching NDEs. Now, that moment didn't it wasn't the catalyst for that, but the catalyst for me researching was reading Anita Moorjani's book Dying to Be Me.
Mhm.
And that book just struck a chord. And I thought, okay, and I want to learn more about this. And I became like a consumer of all thing near death experience,
Yeah.
right? And that doesn't mean that I had near death experience, but my experiences are so much like what other people had gone through that I was very pulled towards it.
Yes.
So anyway, that's kind of like this is going on in the background. I'm in university for design, and I had been in school. I was like a perpetual like student, nonstop student for 11 years, and I learning all kinds of things. And I graduated with, to go into design, and I went headfirst into design, into the corporate world, and it didn't take long for my body to just say, or my soul really, to just say, nope, I know, I don't think so. This isn't for you.
Yes, or
Sorry.
did you feel contracted? Or how, what was
I
the
felt like I had manifested this amazing life, exactly what I wanted, what I thought I wanted,
yes,
what my ego wanted.
yes.
And I realized, I remember coming home and sitting on my couch and thinking, I have everything that I thought I wanted,
Mhm.
but I am so unhappy. What
Mhm.
is going on?
Mhm.
Right. And then just quickly to go over, I ended up with I very quickly went downhill into a sleeping disorder, anxiety, deep depression within a matter of 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and I kind of hit rock bottom.
Mhm. Mhm.
From that, I climbed out of it using, or not myself using, but somebody helping me with hypnosis. And that was my, beginning of my hypnosis journey. So I had help climbing out of that. And I thought, I'm going to retrain in this, because if this is helping me the way it did, I want to help others now. I think that my life is of service, right? And so I retrained in hypnosis. And of course, my experiences had led me into this very spiritual type of hypnosis where doing like life between lives,
Mhm.
past life regression, all kinds of interesting, like getting to know your soul type hypnosis. And I do that type of hypnosis. I do stuck emotion hypnosis too. But it really, my experiences with spirituality and spiritual experiences really led me down that path in hypnosis straight away. So while I was to get to my deeper spiritual experience, while I was training to be a hypnosis specialist, um, we were doing some self hypnosis, right? And during that self hypnosis session, I found myself in this, it was almost like an out of body experience. And I found myself in this meadow, and this beautiful meadow, it was like mountains all around, kind of this valley area. And I never ever grew up religious in any sense, but for some reason, the energy signature of Jesus was there with me in that meadow. And I was, of course, taken aback because that just wasn't in my realm. um, and then all these people, like a huge crowd of people was on my left side, and I was looking at them, and then suddenly it's like everything happened at once, but it was separate. I don't know how to explain that any other way, but I had all these uh karmic relationships with every single person, and some were good, some were bad, some were really bad, right? Some were really bad, and so those really bad ones, I jolted out of the experience and kind of came back into the room where we were doing self-hypnosis. And at that point, I felt like I had two angels, like very tall angels, right here on either side of my shoulders. And they were almost like holding ground. It felt like almost as if you're walking down the street with two bodyguards, and I thought, okay, this is really weird. But I need to go back. I need to live this out or do this, right? So I in my mind, I just sort of floated back. What's going on here? And suddenly all these people that I had karmic relations with, they were all kind of lined up in this long line. And Jesus was there again. And Jesus would, so he would hand me like a blue crystal stone, and I would turn to the person in the lineup. They were all shoulder to shoulder. And I would take that stone and I would place it in their heart center. And it would sort of like meld into their being. Um, and I did that for a bit, not long. And then I sort of came out of the experience, feeling good, right? Like, it was a nice experience then. Um, and it was, it's funny, it was divinely timed because our teacher was bringing us out then a few moments later, back into the room out of self-hypnosis. But it's amazing because from that moment forward, it's like I had this deep, incredible connection with source, with people call it God, people call it source, energy, knowing. So, you can read in books, we are spirits, we are infinite, we are but suddenly it was like this deep knowing, like this remembering, and just knowing that you're infinite, knowing that you are spirit, energy, knowing that you will, everyone in your life that you go through life with, you will see again, and experience other lives with, and set up lives with, and be energy form with. And so it was this deep connection, and in this connection, I wound up like changing my life in this amazing way. So for about a month, I felt deep connection. And I've told people, like, if I could bottle that connection and give it to people, it would be amazing because it was so palpable, like it was so tangible. And then it started to wane, right? It started to wane. And that's okay. I've learned to realize life is this up and down connection, and and during that connection, during that deep connection, the deeper part of it, I I changed my eating habits. I felt so connected to everybody around me. I, got in, I changed my eating. I felt like, this is a temple. I need to take care of this. And in taking care of it, I was closer. I wasn't putting up walls to source, right? I could listen easier. And that was the message that was kind of given to me in the very beginning. I used to struggle have a lot with jealousies in relationships, fears, lots of fears in my life. And not saying that I don't have fears now, but um it all left me because I knew that I was untouchable, right? Like I knew that I was spirit, and you are all spirit. We are all spirit, and we're all untouchable, and we're all infinite beings of light, right? We've heard that term before. Um and anyway, so it waned over nearing the end of the month. And but the lovely part of it was that those fears and those jealousies and stuff like that in my life, they just went away. And that was what I was left with, right? And that was lovely. So moving forward from that, I um I really felt this need to, you know bring that element of connection into hypnosis. Um, so many of my clients are into getting, like connecting with that. And that's wonderful. And I take them there. And many of my clients aren't into that. And that's wonderful too, to each their own. And everybody has their own path. Um, but just helping people, moving forward, helping people find that love and connection in their life, and going through their life with a non-judgment mind, right? The person destitute on the street is the same as your neighbor, is the same as your brother, and is the same as you. It is as if we are all the same light. We are just looking out different eyes. you know
Yes.
so anyway, yeah, that was that.
It's beautiful. I mean, how to feel that love, that sense of safety, of being held, the protection, but without having a near-death experience. That's a question I often ask myself, because when we go through this life, in this world, we can feel very, very alone, uh,
Mm.
overwhelmed by circumstances, afraid. Um, so what is your definition of God now that you've had this experience?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, so I suppose I had never thought about God before. I was never raised with God in my life. But if I was to define God in my life personally, it is just the energy that is all around us all the time, moving through us, and we're not even separate from it, right? Um, from what comes through sessions with people, um, when they go to the other side, in a sense, um, the life that we live right now, there's this overlapping of dimensions, right? It's so the other side is not somewhere, off in outer space. Um, but it's all around us. It's sort of like layers of lace over top of each other, right? So you can see through the whole thing, if that makes sense. I have no idea, but do you know what I mean? Like it's layers on layers um of different dimensions. Yeah. And so back to your question about God, I feel like God just permeates whatever God is. I go with source, or that energy. But or oneness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that permeates all dimensions, all of it, and
Mm.
it's all around us all the time. That's personally my opinion of it. Yeah.
Yes. And this reminds me a bit of this concept of parallel realities,
Mm,
where what we do in this lifetime might affect actually us ourselves in another dimension, perhaps. That's what it reminds me of. Yes. Um,
yeah.
but and also sort of based on your personal experience and experiences of your clients, um, like how do we, because this life can be quite sort of overwhelming oftentimes, and we can be quite confused, and in
Mm.
trying to gain a greater understanding and live a more abundant life, you mentioned sort of two angels
Yeah.
sitting on your shoulders. How oftentimes people who've had a near death experience, what they say is that when they cross over, they realize that they were not alone, that they were surrounded by a team of spirit guides and guardian angels. How do you feel about that, having experienced what you experienced?
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you asked me that, because the angels, when I think back now, like right now, when I think back, the
Mhm,
angels were such a small part of that experience.
mhm,
But in a sense, now that I'm hearing you ask me that, they they're starting to feel like a much larger
mhm,
part of my life and my experience. And absolutely, I believe that my personal opinion is that we are surrounded by angels in all forms.
mhm,
Um, mine were, uh, I should say mine, but the ones that were around me were incredibly tall,
mhm,
but they were also kind of dark. We always think about angels as being light, beautiful light, but they were dark, and not bad dark.
yeah,
Not that there is bad dark, but they're uh, they're they were almost like, just, we're here for you, right?
mhm,
I'm getting tingles just thinking about it. We're here for you. Their hands on my shoulders. We're grounding you. Um, Almost like strength,
mhm,
like brute strength.
mhm,
Um, and yeah, I really believe that we are surrounded, and I know that books and people say, just reach out, right? Just reach out and they'll be there for you. What I would say to that is, absolutely reach out, but start with simple questions.
mhm,
So how do what's your mind, what's your ego talking, and um, what is spirit,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
Um, Simple questions, yes or no answers,
mhm,
right? Something that gets your mind into the conversation, gets that connection going.
mhm,
Um, you know, uh, just asking, um, are you on my left side? Yes. Okay. Write that down, right?
yeah,
Simple questions will lead you over time to having more information come in to
mhm,
your being. Um, and another way of knowing whether or not it's your ego playing into it or spirit will never tell you that you have to do something,
mhm.
okay? Um, because from my experiences, and from um, experiences that people have brought forward
Mhm,
in hypnosis, is no matter what we do in life, it's all good.
mhm,
It's all good.
mhm,
Whether or not I decide to go have breakfast after this or go home, uh it it doesn't matter.
mhm,
It doesn't matter.
mhm,
When you cross over, eventually, you are celebrated no matter what you did,
Mhm.
right? And listening,
Mhm.
listening to those words. Your ego will say, you need to do that or else,
Mhm.
fear-based.
Mhm.
Anything that gives you a little pang of fear,
Mhm.
um, not angelic, not for your highest good, not, um, but if you hear something like, well, maybe you should think about doing this, or, um, it's okay if you do that,
Mhm.
or oftentimes once you start to hear more,
Mhm.
you'll hear your name attached to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's not like Hillary, you need to, it's never you need to, but it's not like, you know, not in a demanding voice in any sense. Um, it's sometimes stern but loving,
Mhm.
right? Um, but oftentimes it's very neutral. It's this neutral voice. Um, and sometimes for me at least, sometimes it sounds very male.
Mhm.
Sometimes, not often for myself, but sometimes it sounds female.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and just asking questions and allowing, if you're an image type person, allowing images to come into your mind. If you're a thought-based person, just paying attention to those thoughts.
Mhm.
Um, And yeah, that's how you can create that connection more and more. But starting off with yes or no. If you're right at the beginning of trying to make a connection,
Mhm.
start with yes and no, because it helps develop that communication and that connection.
Mhm. So we don't need complicated rituals. Actually, it's very simple. Actually,
It's so simple.
yes,
It
it's
really is very simple.
get in touch with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
it's reassuring to know that we're not alone. That we are surrounded by angels and are there to help us and guide us in this life. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, as a past life regression therapist, I mean, I assume you also look into pre-birth planning, um, and why people or why we go through sort of these repetitive experiences in life,
Hmm.
go through sort of these difficult circumstances, and this could be anything from poverty or not being able to find the kind of sort of happy, fulfilling relationship, attracting unavailable partners, or how, like with hypnosis or going sort of a past life regression session, how do what awareness do people gain, and or what awareness can we gain, and how can we break through those repetitive patterns in a way?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So when somebody goes into either a past life regression or a life between life regression, when it comes to patterns, so um, let's just say, you have a pattern where um, you have a number of relationships that um, that go bad, or you know what would I say? So take me for instance. Okay, I used to have a lot of jealousy in my life, um and it was a pattern. Absolutely a pattern. um and what comes through sessions
Mhm.
is that kind of pattern. Now that's a simple pattern. Um, there's not. I mean, there's hurt, but there's not a lot of um, deep hurt. Um, but absolutely, jealousy can hurt the other person, right? Especially if you're accusing. which I was very good at. And I'm not afraid to say that. But um, what comes through is that in past lives, when we went through lives together,
Mhm.
it was the opposite.
Mhm.
So the other person would be uh, jealous of me, say.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? So
Mhm.
um, it's kind of playing out this karmic relationship
Mhm.
to understand,
Mhm.
you know, what the other person felt
Mhm.
in that lifetime.
Mhm.
Um, loss,
Mhm.
uh, um, illnesses, jealousies, patterns in work relationships, patterns in our home relationships. Um, it's all this karmic transaction.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now we've labeled it karma,
Mhm.
right? As humans, we like labeling things, but it's just this energetic transaction. And in this energetic transaction, we grow as souls. And that is the big thing that the group wants to grow together,
Mhm.
right? No one left behind kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so when the group wants to grow together, the group of souls,
Mhm.
we play out these relationships,
Mhm.
right? Um yeah. I guess I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry.
No, this is very interesting because I have the impression that when we judge someone, we tend to either in this life or perhaps during a near-death experience or in the afterlife, maybe, who knows, but we tend to actually find ourselves in that same circumstance. For example, I know of a friend when she was much younger, she used to judge this other woman because she was in a relationship with a much, much older man. Well,
Mm.
fast forward 10 years, she found herself in a relationship with a much, much older man as well.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it works. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also think of the story of someone who experimented with ayahuasca. And
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that when you take ayahuasca, it's some sort of a mini near-death experience. And
Mm.
this person used to judge homeless people, but then during his near-death experience, he actually became that homeless person. I suppose this is for us to grow in compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, and back to that non-judgmental mind, right? As a hypnotist, I I mean, I'm not I can't say I never judge. I judge myself, I judge others sometimes, but as a hypnotist, you really start to notice how everybody is just going through life,
Mhm.
and we're all doing the best that we can with what the information we know. Um, and so this judgment sort of falls away,
Mhm.
right? Um, and absolutely, that is where you want to move your life towards, is um this non-judgmental mind, non-judgment mind, where, again, you're looking at the homeless person and you see them the same way you see your rich neighbor,
Mhm.
right? You see them the same way that you see your daughter or your dad or your grandfather, right? Like, we're all the same light,
Mhm.
right? Like, looking out different eyes, these bodies that we've ensouled,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the filters through which we see life that make a difference, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard as a human, right? It's hard. Um, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I struggle with it sometimes, but more and more every day it gets easier and more natural, because that's our natural state of being. But of course, society and the world, it likes to put us into these boxes and make us look at others in different ways so we feel better about ourselves, and all this lack of love
Mm-hmm.
mindset. And that's another thing. When you start to really have that non-judgmental mind, um, love is what is there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And after you cross over, you you're connected. You just feel that connection, like all this lifetime judgment and angers and resentments and jealousies and everything. It just falls away. It's not part of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's very easy then to
Yeah.
see what it actually was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think so many people mention illusion. This is an illusory world.
Very.
Yeah. Um, and again, from what comes through sessions is we're here to experience.
Mm.
And that experience isn't always fun, right? Sometimes that experience is very deep.
Mm.
Um, and
Mm.
but we grow.
Yeah. So to what extent, because you hear, I don't like the term law of attraction so much. I prefer the
Mhm.
term creation.
Yeah.
And so we go through what we know from people like you is that, I mean, before we reincarnate, we plan to go through certain experiences,
Hmm.
whether that is, loss of a loved one or poverty. We plan to go through those experiences to grow in compassion, to grow in empathy. But to what extent is the life that we live today, to what extent is that really a fruit of or consequence of pre-birth planning? And to
Hmm.
what extent is the life that we live today a consequence of choice, a choice that we make? Um,
Like free will.
Free will, yes. I mean, so, when you sit down to also like, and this, is a bit related, I suppose, when you want to create a certain reality for yourself, to what extent is it sort of predetermined, like part of your soul's plan? And to what extent is it really just the result of choice or the consequence
Yeah.
of choice?
Yeah. So, personally, I don't have any understanding of that. But what is, I often refer to sessions, and because that's how, besides my own experiences, that's how I'm learning and gathering. Um, so what's coming through is that uh, we, um, we look at different lifetimes.
Mhm.
So imagine your soul, and it's almost like um, a Rolodex,
Mhm.
right? It's like you're flipping through different lifetimes, and you're flipping through different
Mhm.
body types. Well, if I want to learn this, then maybe I need that kind of body type,
Mhm.
right? If I want to learn this, then maybe that body type, that lifetime needs to go through this and this and this,
Mhm.
right? Um, so we choose, apparently choose those kinds of things, and we choose these relationships that we have with people.
Mhm.
Um, and we tack on lessons that we want to learn. Well, how are we going to learn that lesson?
Mhm.
How do we learn that together? Or how do we have a letting go and then I learn the lesson afterwards,
Mhm.
right? Think of like early relationship in your life.
Mhm.
Um, so we pick our lives, we pick relationships, we have this back and forth with uh our soul group,
Mhm.
um on who's going to be what in that lifetime, right?
Mhm.
So you you were my not you, but like I'm a soul saying you were my mom in my last life, so this life I'm going to be your mom kind of thing. um And, it doesn't surprise me that so many people tell me, like, I feel like I'm mothering my mom. Like, I feel like I'm the mom in this relationship, right?
I know.
Um, so yeah, and from what I gather, there's these big moments that you choose, right? Big moments, um, lessons to learn, challenges. Often, if life was just hunky dory and you just sort of floated through it, easy peasy, um, we wouldn't learn much,
Mhm.
right? We wouldn't learn much. So we put ourselves in these, you know, experiences
Mhm.
that um we can choose to learn from.
Mhm.
Um and in that learning we grow. Now, in between all those, like um me deciding to right now pick this up, right? This TV remote. That's free will,
Mhm.
right? I From what I gather, I didn't decide before I came here to pick up this TV remote. It's simple. It's not, at least that I don't know. Like, it's not, gonna change the course of my lifetime. But who knows? Maybe it did. Um, but free will applies to those, like, day to day, making little choices here and there. Um, but when it comes to those things that you look back in your life and you go, why in the world did I do that? Or why did that happen to me? Um, why did I do that to that person? All those kind of big things. Illnesses.
Mhm.
Why did that happen to me? Why did I choose to have that? I know that's hard for a lot of people to hear, that we choose those things.
Mhm.
But apparently we do.
Mhm.
Um, and we choose them to learn and to understand and to go through that growth. So I think that if that answered your question about, free will versus lessons, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's it's difficult to know when you're in the middle of it, what
Oh,
goes on. It's always in hindsight. That's the frustrating part. In
it
hindsight,
is.
you
Yeah.
like, oh, that's what I learned from it. But when you're
Yeah.
in the middle of it, that's when you're.
Very hard to look at it objectively like that.
Mm,
Um, I think the biggest thing that people can start doing if they want to start looking at life like that, um, is it's almost exactly like what I do in my sessions with people with stuck emotions and stuff. Is what is there to learn from this? What am I supposed to learn from this? Asking your subconscious, asking your higher power, whatever you connect with. What is there to learn from this so that I can let go? So
mm,
that I can let go and grow.
yes.
Um, simple one is when somebody gets a cold.
Mhm.
Colds suck, right? We all know that. But just like yesterday or the day before, um, I was working with somebody and they had had a cold before,
Mhm.
not at that moment, but before. And what came through was, just learning to slow down in life.
Mhm.
The cold came on to slow you down a little bit and to have you kind of look at your life and take a break.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Sometimes colds come on when we've got two things in our mind that we're going, do I do this or this? And there's confusion.
Mhm.
And then a cold might come on,
Mhm.
right?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. What would you also say is what is our imagination? I mean, is it just, our childlike self just, sort of daydreaming, or is there more to imagination than
Yeah.
there is?
Personally, I really think imagination is very much fed from spirit.
Mm.
Um, if you think of movies and uh, TV shows, um, that are really just out there, really imaginative, creating other worlds, other dimensions, you know, um, I I really think, and kids too, right? They're in their imagination so much, and they're bringing through other worlds. They're bringing through just these amazing scenarios. And as we get older, we know we shut it off, right? We that's not what society wants. They want, math and programming. They don't want imagination in that respect. Um, uh, but But if you think about those movies and everything kind of it's like they're being channeled,
Mm.
right? Um, Sometimes you'll read books, and like for instance, I think some of like Dolores Cannon's work, her people bringing through things, other worlds.
Mhm.
I've had people come in, not people come in, but like people in regression going through a life on another world.
Mhm.
Um, and I go, man, oh man, that sounds a lot like, you know, that
Yeah.
that that movie. Or it comes through, and then a couple years later there's a movie like that,
Mhm.
right? Or a show, and you go, where's that information coming from? And
Mhm.
so my personal opinion might be silly or crazy, but I really think that a lot of that is channeled. I really think that people are channeling something that's there, that's going into their imagination, and they're seeing it and they're going, oh man, that would be a great story, right? That would be a great thing to
Yeah.
write or direct or have on the big screen, and yeah, and then it just goes from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We just need, I suppose, room, to be able to imagine. I mean, just
You do. Yeah. Yeah. And the lovely thing about hypnosis is um you're in that, I mean, you're in that imaginative state, right? And getting into that imaginative state is finding relaxation, right? It's very hard to be going about your day quickly, doing things, your mind is scrambled, and have that imagination, right? Be tapped into that. And so that's where in hypnosis, we go into that nice state of relaxation. You're alert, you're not gone anywhere, right? So you're just kind of bringing through, channeling in a sense. You're bringing through that information for yourself.
yes. One of my favorite authors is Florence Scovel Shinn. She's author of the book The Game of Life and How to Play It.
Oh,
And it was published in 1925, I think, or so. But she distinguishes between what she says is that she describes or she talks about visioning. And she says when you envision, it's not you imposing an image actually on your imagination. It's actually like I forget her exact wording, but it's sort of some sort of not maybe not a download, but it's like it comes through. Like it's not
yeah,
something. It's you don't impose it; it comes through.
yeah.
So that's actually congruent with.
That's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. That's amazing. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and you think of what comes to my mind is like past lives too, right? Those kinds of things play out in this life as well,
Mhm.
with entertainment and books, and just knowing that you've been somewhere, maybe like
Mhm.
knowing in your heart that you've met this person before, or you've had lifetimes with them, that kind of thing.
Mm.
um yeah, it's amazing.
How also, I mean, because I think we've all had the experience where you meet someone and you feel like you've known them forever. Yeah, that's, I don't know if that's maybe someone from our soul family, you know, we've had an experience with in a past lifetime, or a twin flame, or but it's,
Yeah,
I think we hear more and more of that sort of this feeling like you've known someone forever. Um, hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, and that comes through a lot in life between lives sessions,
Mm.
where they take a look at their soul group in their mind, in their when they're there, um and uh and they go, oh my gosh, so and so's here, and oh, I didn't realize, like, we only had like a 2-minute relationship. But something was to be learned in that, I'm exaggerating, but 2-minute relationship, right?
Mm.
There was something to learn there.
Mm.
And yeah, it really is. You just, I've gone through it. I'm sure you've gone through it. So many people have gone through it, where they see somebody and it's like this instant connection, right? It's this instant, oh my gosh, I've known you. Yeah, and there's this, like, this heart connection sometimes too, right? Where you meet someone, or you just feel this movement in your heart. You feel this, like, it's almost like gravity,
Mm.
this feeling in your heart, and you know that in whatever way you're connected deeply to that person, right?
It's a magnetic pull, actually.
Yeah, it's like this, yeah,
Mm.
magnetic pull, exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Finally, there's a question that still comes to mind about sort of, you mentioned diet earlier, actually, sort of after you had your spiritual experience, you felt the pull or the inclination actually to make changes in your diet, and how that actually helped you feel
Yes.
connected to, you know,
Yeah.
beyond this realm. What kind of changes?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was for me, for my body, I guess, I was specifically instructed to uh kind of cut back on the wine, the alcohol, um have a very uh almost like a vegetarian diet, um to pull away from red meats, that kind of thing. Um and apparently the reason why, because I was asking, like, why? Because there was a part of me that was like, well, what about, a glass of wine on Saturday? Well, there was a part of me that was negotiating with this. It was hilarious. Oh my gosh. So, uh, what I was kind of told is that, I mean, it's up to you, obviously, but those kinds of, like, alcohols, red meats, um, meat sometimes in general, oh, candy, like chocolate, all this stuff, all this.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's heavy on our energy, and it sort of clouds our connection,
Mm.
if that makes sense. So once I felt that, because I could hear it and go, I don't know if I want to do that. Once I felt that, and I felt the knowledge that it would cloud,
Mhm.
then there was no questioning it, and I just did it. It
Mhm.
was very easy to
I
do.
I see.
But after a month, life starts to trickle back in, and you're doing your stuff, and it just sort of falls away, and that's okay, right?
Mhm.
Um, at first I was like grasping, trying to get that feeling back.
Mhm.
But over time I learned that life is like a symphony, right? And there's ups and downs and all arounds,
Mhm.
um, and it's about experiencing those highs,
Mhm.
or tapping in a little bit to those highs, and knowing that they're there, and knowing that you're on this path, and that you can help others connect more. Yeah, and so it's just this beautiful symphony of life in energy, in an energetic form.
Yeah. Yeah, what I noticed myself is I didn't notice that much of a difference when I gave up, when I eliminated meat from my diet, but dairy especially, it was
Mm.
a relief.
Mhm.
I used to be, I mean, just, have flu-like symptoms like throughout the year. And when I eliminated dairy from my diet, it felt almost as if my body said, "Oh, finally, she got the message."
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing that way.
Yeah, same thing with gluten also. Like it was quite a relief when I
Yes.
added that for my diet.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy.
Yes. The
Yeah.
only thing I struggle a little bit with is just sort of a bit of raw dark chocolate.
Yeah, that's all right. We all struggle, I know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Guilty
Yeah,
pleasure. Mm.
yeah.
Yes, well, Hilary, I mean, thank you so much. I mean, you've poured your life force energy into this conversation, and
Oh, thank you.
I'm immensely grateful. Especially, you're my
Yeah,
first
it's
guest.
wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And so you work with clients both in Canada but also abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how can people find you if they wanted to have a hypnosis session with you?
Yeah, so well, whether it's below this video or in the podcast links wherever they are, there will be my website. I'll send you all that, my website, a link if people want to, contact me for a Zoom meeting just to connect. Yeah, and I'm online too, like on socials. I've got Facebook and Instagram, and those links will be linked in the description below. And yeah, don't be shy, just reach out if you're interested in talking, finding more about hypnosis. And yeah, I look forward to talking with anybody that is interested.
Yes. All right. Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much too.